No, man, it's been wild. I've got my my next major hearing in my criminal case coming up on Wednesday, and I'm just like,
Wow.
I'm chomping at the bit. You don't get to say anything for this like period
So
of
now
time.
you get to respond to all the accusations by the state finally.
Yeah, just at least
Ooh.
to start. At least to start, we get to make
What lawyer song do you hum as you're walking in the courtroom to pump yourself up? Do you give yourself like a Law and Order bum bum, bum or do you do like a Perry Mason?
It's just wet ass pussy. It's just
wet ass pussy.
That's all it is. That's all I play all day because I just thinking about how physically attracted I am to the chair I'm about to sit in and be prosecuted in.
Oh man, my head is so big on your stream. My head, look at all. I'm getting really gray. I don't look at myself in the mirror because there's just no need to. But man, I'm losing it.
Well, anytime you need a mirror, I'll invite you on the stream. You can be like, "Oh God,
okay, thanks.
Gotta check and see how it's going."
So you're going in Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday is my contested omnibus hearing, so it's not like all pretrial shit that you you get to fight the government on, and then in theory also I could take a plea deal, I guess, on that day too. That is possible. That is if they've offered me one. Dun dun dun. Since they've offered one to Lady Rackets, but doesn't seem like they have to Nick Rekieta.
Oh, is that? I'm not. I don't know everything that's going on. I just know that.
Oh, don't worry. Nobody does. They all think they do. It's so funny because it's like,
you're being sarcastic. Like, they're saying they offered your wife a plea deal, but they didn't.
Yeah, well, they did. They offered my wife a plea deal, and everybody's like, and they didn't offer one for Nick. They're gonna get her to roll on him. It's like, okay, I guess that's what happened then.
Yeah,
it's amazing because the people who like keep commenting with so much authority about what's going on, there are people who in the past, if they would have just asked, I would have probably told them.
Oh,
like, what was going on. And now they're out there just like freaking out about it. And they're being like, this is what Nick's doing. He's like, nope, that's not it at all. I don't know.
I like that legal guy, that guy with the one eye on the law and the one eye on the Thai lady boys. That guy. Walleye Esquire. What is his?
He puts the limp in Pimp Limp.
Oh, yeah, he has a limp.
Oh, dude,
I don't know anything about that guy. He just seems to be on he seems to be on the popular side of the law. Every time I hear from him, he's like, "Oh yeah, this is."
You can also find him on Fresh and Fit. Hello, fellow Chads.
Yeah. Last time I heard from him was Dick doesn't know anything about cocaine. I said, okay. Sure thing.
Does
buddy.
he?
You don't know anything about Thai lady boys either, I'm sure.
It's just wild. Like, this has been one of the most interesting parts of my case for me is watching, like, again, I know like all the filings, like I have the discovery, I have all that stuff. Now it took a while. At first they didn't serve me fucking anything. For my first hearings that I had with the child custody part of it, they didn't tell us we had a hearing. Like, I found out the day we had a hearing, I found out that 3 hours before the hearing that we had one.
Are they just incompetent, A, B, trying to you, or C, so used to dealing with like poor and retarded people that they just don't tell people anything because they can't explain it?
D, all the above.
All the above.
Seriously. So one of the more interesting things as we were having a walkthrough, one of the times the government was in my house, they get to come check out your house like whenever you want when they have your children, right? And because they just go, oh well, if you want to ever see them again. It's amazing.
That's how great,
they just gun to your head the whole time. They're like, oh, you want us to come over to your house right now? You want us to do that? It's like, yes, please. Actually, I would love it if you just walked around in it and looked at all the doors or whatever.
Children. Oh God.
And but one of the times
now, did I read that right?
Yeah, kids are back home.
Oh, that's great.
Full time. My parents didn't move in. Neither did Kayla's parents. The first lawyers that we had were appointed attorneys because, again, so you get out of jail and they like I said, they didn't serve us any of the documents
Yeah.
related to the child custody case. So we had no idea. We started hearing from our relatives about some hearing that was coming up. And we're like, what is the hearing for? And they're like, we don't know. Like, well, why? Like, what are you talking about a hearing for? We don't know anything about it. And we couldn't look it up because you can't look up child custody stuff. They have it all the names are protected. But there wasn't even a hearing listed at the time we were supposedly having a hearing. So then the government shows up at my house and they're like, oh, yeah, are you coming to the hearing today? It's, are you coming to the hearing today? The one about your kids. And it's like, yes. I said, when are you going to actually service the papers? They said, well, we don't have to. And it's like, well, I mean, you kind of
do it though.
Yeah. You kind of have to, except they don't, because they just have your children and they don't have to do anything like you. And then you have to fight for it.
Yeah.
And the leverage that they always have is, okay, you can fight, but we'll just make it take longer.
Yeah.
And one of the, but it just, you mentioned part 3 where they're just so used to dealing with people who are like dumb or don't speak English or whatever.
Yeah.
Not used to the legal system. One of the walkthroughs, the government worker looks around, she goes, we're just not used to dealing with people in your socioeconomic status.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to. Like, there's
I was
nothing
like,
to do here.
I said, probably because I didn't stab someone for meth. Like, what you guys have done is bullshit.
Yeah, because the government exists to deal with poor people, lady. That's like, do you guys? Nobody told you guys that, but that's the reason why we have this.
Oh, that was great. This whole saga gets fantastic, but and eventually I get to tell the whole story. But for now, like the first lawyers we had were appointed at the hearings that we didn't know we had. We got there. Our lawyers had nothing prepared. They hadn't read our complaint. We didn't get to see our complaint. I didn't see our complaint until the second hearing.
Wow.
So just so everybody's aware of
you
that.
Know what you're getting accused of
no.
with your kids, having to do with your kids?
Nope. At the first hearing, I had not even seen the government allegations against us. Then at the second hearing, I finally get to read them, and I'm reading them over my lawyer's shoulder, who our lawyers, they're like, oh, we want to do a continuance at this first hearing. We'll give us 10 days to prepare a case. And we got there 10 days later after the continuance. And because they first said, they're like, well, who are your witnesses and what are your exhibits? I'm like, I don't know. I've been in jail. Like, what exhibits do we need? The government has to show a dangerous environment. There's nothing that I don't need an exhibit. I have witnesses. And they're like, well, let's just get the case ready. We'll do a continuance for 10 days and then we'll do it. So we're like, I guess 10 days later, I show up to court and my lawyer looks at me and she goes, what are your exhibits and where are your witnesses? And I said, excuse me, that's your job. Like, and I had been in contact with this woman. Like, I had spoken with her between hearings.
What's like an example of like, what was she supposed to have had in that time?
I don't know what exhibits she would have done, but like, this is her thing was, let's do a continuance so we can get some exhibits and witnesses together. Okay. I had the same witnesses. Actually, I didn't have the same witnesses because I think I would have had another witness at the first hearing than I was able to have. But I had the same witness list of potential people and the exhibits were the same, which is the government has to show. That's the exhibit, is the government has to show something. I don't have to show anything. There's not like an exhibit I can show you to show that something didn't happen. So I'm like, what do you mean? And they had no preparation done for the case. They hadn't talked to a single witness. They barely had talked to me. They hadn't prepared an exhibit. They hadn't read any reports. They had nothing. I had to effectively represent myself, but I had to fight with my own counsel to do it. It was embarrassing. Those two lawyers get appointed to every child custody case in the county. Every single one gets one of those two lawyers.
If they argue too much, they lose business.
I wouldn't allege that. That would be insane to allege that the hand that feeds them is the government who chooses to appoint them to every single case.
How are two lawyers in charge of all the child custody shit?
There's not that many people in the county. The total people in the county is about 50,000. I've had live streams bigger than this county. So one of the things I mentioned online that people kind of misunderstood, I asked my lawyer, unrelated to what we had going on in any of the particular court hearings, but I asked my lawyer to get a recording for me. I said, I'm entitled to that recorded conversation. And she said, they don't usually like to do that. Yeah, I'm not joking when I said the government has a recorded conversation with me and I want it because I can have it. She
Right.
goes, they don't usually like to do that. And I said, it's required by law that they give me that conversation that they have.
It's such an odd way to phrase that.
So I said, your job is to get that. So ask for it. And I
Yeah.
asked for it and they didn't give it to me forever. They actually did not respond to my lawyer's request. It was true. They didn't like doing that.
Yeah.
But she's like, well, why do you want this recorded conversation? I said, well, because they might want to use something I said in the conversation. And I want to make sure that if they do that, we're able to counter with what was actually said. Cause I know what I said and I know how the government works. They'll take something out of context. It's called the rule of completeness. And she goes, what's that? And I said, I'm sorry, what's the rule of completeness? She says, yeah. And I said, well, if they use like a piece of evidence against you, like a portion, like let's say you write a book and they use one sentence out of the book, but there's surrounding paragraphs that make the sentence kind of important or change the meaning of something. The rule of completeness allows you to introduce enough evidence to complete the actual fact that you're going with. And she goes, in all my years of practice, I've never heard of the rule of completeness. She had no idea. She didn't know the actual rules of evidence, the basic rules of evidence that exist. None. She did no preparation, didn't talk to me about the case at all, didn't do anything. It's been fun. It's been especially fun, like, because there's this Kiwi Farms account, Minnesota Public Records, and they keep releasing documents from my case. And then what happened is, like, the case got sealed. So they ran out of documents to release. So they had to break up the last one into multiples because they're like, but the thing is they're milking
Okay,
this
so it's
document.
not a cop? I figured that was a cop. I guess if they don't have access anymore, then
I
they
have
don't.
no
They're
idea
not.
who it might be.
I have
None
no
at
idea.
all.
Who it might be.
None. But no, so the thing is they only have access to a couple documents and then they don't have any more. And so they've been trying to milk this last one, which means that the document they're releasing is the transcript from a hearing that happened on June 7th, but they're releasing it in parts. And so
Oh,
they're
okay.
right.
On a time delay now.
And the
Or
funny
Kiwi
thing
Farms.
is, they're like, oh, this is stupid. This is really going to make over. And it's like, wait, but like, I know my kids are back.
Yeah.
Like, so
They're back and free and clear. There's no more kid thing at all. So all of that was for no reason. All of it. Like all of this hysteria over your case amounted to nothing.
There's a statute that says if a controlled substance is located in a home with children, the children are presumed to be in danger and need to be removed until the danger is resolved. That's different from child endangerment, the crime. The crime of child endangerment would have the requisite intent and knowledge aspects of criminal law attached. Okay. So here's the thing. In our case, a search was conducted of our home, right? Yeah. I'm not going to say that the search was necessarily valid, but that's a court argument. But a search was conducted of our home. And during that search, the county sheriff alleges they found a controlled substance. That alleged controlled substance has not been tested or weighed by the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension in Minnesota yet. So they actually don't know that they have a controlled substance. Their field testing is inadmissible to show the presence of a controlled substance. So it's admissible for the purposes of establishing some level of cause, right? It goes into the factors for establishing probable cause, but they haven't actually tested it yet. So they don't know the actual weight of the alleged controlled substance. They don't know the actual chemical composition of the alleged controlled substance. But during their field testing, it field tested positive for what would be a controlled substance. And based on that, they have the grounds to emergency place the children out of the home, which is what they did.
Yeah.
There are no other grounds for the removal of my children from my house. So despite the kvetching online, there was not actually any finding of child maltreatment or malnourishment or neglect or abuse. None of that actually
All that
has
I'm
happened.
hungry shit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was all what people I tried to tell people early on. That report, the kid being hungry. First of all, children say they're hungry when they're hungry. Like when they want to eat a sandwich, they say they're hungry, kind of like a
They say it
adult
all
does.
the time. They say it while they're eating. They say, "I'm starving. I don't wanna," and they say, "I'm hungry. I don't wanna eat that." They
Yes. And when this story eventually gets told, and it's so much worse than I can
Yeah.
express. But it has to be told through court first,
Yeah.
because if I just tell it now, people won't have any reason to believe it. The great thing is when I get to tell it, I have all of the documentation, I have the recorded conversations, I have the video, I have it all to back it up. Family Services ignored all of those reports. All the reports that said that the kids were hungry or didn't
Oh,
have clothes,
really?
which is ludicrous. If you have any concept of how many clothes we have,
Yeah.
you guys don't. My kid's closet looks like a Goodwill. Like it's just racks
Well,
and
now
racks
they're gonna
and
say
racks of
that's,
clothing.
now
Yeah.
that's they're gonna say that's because your home's in squalor.
But the myopia of poverty is when your experience is so far removed from some other experience that you can't fathom the situation that must be occurring.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
you apply your own situation into it. So what people hear is they hear there was lots of laundry on the ground and they go, man, if I had lots of laundry on the ground, it would look like X. And it's like,
Yeah.
and then I wouldn't have laundry to wear. It's like, oh, no, no, no. You don't understand how many clothes our children have. We have a 16-year-old down to a 6-year-old, which means we have hand-me-down. Oh, and my wife comes from a huge family. We have hand-me-downs for days. We have new clothes for days. Like our kids have just tons of clothes, and we
Yeah.
don't really get rid of them between the two ages because you save up. Like when one kid grows out of some stuff, you save it because the next kid's going to grow into it. So
Right.
and you start getting rid of the stuff at the youngest levels, but in the meanwhile, you have a bunch. And so, yeah, was there a bunch of laundry in the house? Absolutely. It was incidentally, it was sorted into piles so that it could be washed in the laundry room that it was adjacent to. But hey, who's counting? The whole interesting thing about it though is despite all of the where remember my house was called an overall dirty home because it had dust on the vents. It's like there dust on the vents. Okay. But all of that stuff about the hungry kids, the not having clothes and all that, that was all ignored by CPS. It was all
Huh.
ignored entirely because there was no basis to it. And as they did their investigation, which their initial thing when they hear this stuff is, oh my God, right? They did their investigation and continued to find that there was no basis for any of it. In fact, what they found were 5 children who are all above average height, above average weight, above average intelligence, who do very well in their studies, who are wildly involved, or their parents are wildly involved in their lives. Every single interview that they had said one thing over and over. These kids really love their parents. The parents really love the kids, and the parents are always around for the kids. They're
Yeah.
always there. We're at everything. And our kids are involved in tons of stuff. And in all of that, they're like, yeah, the only thing they ever had was there were drugs allegedly present in the home during this search. So
Yeah.
once those were removed, it was a
And
matter
the
of, yeah, that's an interesting story. That's a
Yeah.
very interesting story. And it got more interesting recently.
Yeah. It could only be interesting when 1 out of 5, the middle kid, has, uh, cochlear tests. They're not I mean,
That's not the middle one. It's the next
Oh,
to
it's
youngest.
the next to youngest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see that what's funny though is that despite that, the county never actually alleged that the child had done cocaine
Yeah.
or ingested it in any way. And they didn't even allege that we exposed the child to it.
Hmm.
Here's why they can't. A hair follicle test can't tell you that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's almost like maybe there is actual explanation for how that happened that'll get brought up at some point soon.
Oh.
I know and can say definitively that while in our care, in our home, those children were never exposed to any illegal substances
Yeah.
ever. Another thing that's fun is like people, I mentioned that at one of our hearings and they're like, why would Nick say that? Is he trying to head it off or mitigate it? Cause he knew the test was coming. First
No,
of
it's
all,
fatter. If you're going to do null, you got to sound fatter. Why would I say that?
the funny
They're not
thing is
sending their best pedophiles over there at Kiwi Farms. They're sending they're sending
they're sending the convicted ones. The amazing
if you're
thing
gonna
is
send your pedophiles out on these ops, on these pedo ops, you got to send the ones that don't have pedophile records.
if they were to read just a little bit before that line, because there's a line that I said in court, and I said that the children have stated that if they were exposed, it would be from someone else.
Yeah.
The only reason I stated that line is because that's what the state wrote.
Yeah.
The state wrote that down in their complaint. I was reading that line from the complaint. My children were all interviewed by 2 government workers with no parents, no grandparents, and no attorney present.
Yeah.
Not even a guardian ad litem was present.
They got taken out of the home when the cops showed up.
Yes.
I mean, I know it always needs to be repeated, but cops are extremely incompetent.
Actually, they got taken out of the home when the cops showed up, and then they were brought back into the home several times. During the search, the children were brought into and out of the home several times.
Great.
I didn't know this because I was not there. But the reason that I mentioned that, like, people are like, what's he trying to say? I'm like, I'm trying to say that according to the complaint the government filed, the children who they independently interviewed with no possible parental influence all said that they've never seen drugs. They've never seen their parents intoxicated in any way. And they have never, and if any exposure were to have happened, it would have come from contact with someone else. That's what they said. Actually, though, what I've learned is that that line that the government put in their complaint was a lie. Not a single child said that. That line was sort of fed to them by a county worker.
Oh.
Yeah. A county worker, because it's not something 6-year-olds tend to say, or 8-year-olds, or 11-year-olds, or 13-year-olds, or 16-year-olds. It's just not their normal experience to say that. But it is a county worker who tried to get them to say what they wanted them to say.
God.
And again, and people are like, oh my God, Nick's saying all this stuff about these people. I sure hope he's there. You know, does he know about defamation? It's all recorded, guys. All this shit's recorded. I'm very confident in saying all of it because it's all recorded. But the kids never actually said that. The government put that in their complaint and it wasn't true. Shocker. But that's the reason that I said it in court, was because, hey, you even say in your complaint that the alleged victims, the children, have never witnessed any of this. In fact, they didn't ever present a single witness who had. Not one. Not one witness was able to ever say that Lady Rackets or I had engaged in any illegal activity at all. Not a single witness presented by the state in our family case was put on record for that. No one was brought up at all. It's amazing. It's amazing. So yeah, when people are like, Nick's never getting his kids back and all this
stuff. It's amazing
like,
that they have to take your kids away for a month for like something this retarded.
They don't have to.
Oh, they don't have to?
No, they could have returned them right away. Because, okay, so let's go through the steps. Okay. Allegedly, they found this substance. And I say allegedly because, again, it has not been tested. No testing has been done by the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension in Minnesota.
Yeah, right.
So the government hasn't even performed their own tests on it. So allegedly, they found this substance that they believe merits an emergency placement. Well, we can presume that the county sheriff's department does a fantastic job and removes all of the dangerous things when they do a search. So their entire basis for keeping our kids longer was someone might commit a crime at some point in the future. And we were asked to prove that a future crime would not be committed.
How?
Good question. Because when you ask them, what do you need? Because that's all we asked the whole time. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need?
Yeah.
What do you need? They didn't have answers. They never have an answer. Because how do you answer that?
Yeah. What do you got?
They go, well, we want to make sure it doesn't happen again. It's like, yeah, we're with you on that. What do you need? What do you want us to do? Want to come look in our house? You want to go search through everything? What do you need? Just tell us. What do we need to do to show you that the home is safe for the children? And they couldn't. They didn't have anything. The problem was they couldn't tell us what wasn't safe, because the only thing was the alleged substances, and those were removed. So, and just to be clear to everybody out there, that's not an admission that there were alleged substances. That's what the county has stated. That's what we're charged with. The government has to prove all sorts of things about those substances, and that's what the criminal trial is for. They've said that I've alleged that the police had planted stuff or whatever. It's like, I've never said anything even close to that. But people just, they take two different things, they conflate them together. And this is something I've noticed. Kiwi Farms is a game of telephone. And it's a confirmatory game of telephone.
Did you say petaphone?
Yes, petaphone.
Petaphone. Yeah.
It's where someone on Kiwi Farms will
mishear. One pedophile says to another. Yeah.
One pedo says to the next something. They misunderstand something, either intentionally or unintentionally. And then that thing gets adopted as what happened. Yeah. And then it becomes this confirmatory circle jerk. And they just keep going back and forth. It's like, and then it becomes their canon. So people, including Josh, who was willing to put in an affidavit that I said police planted stuff in the house. Like, Josh, I never said that.
Dude, he's gotten really retarded. And anything that has to do with you or I guess Vito, I don't know. He's like,
that's the myopia of poverty.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's myopia.
Something else. He's like reasonable and has a sense of humor about so many things, but then when it comes to us, he's like, yeah, Nick's alleging that the police are planning. Like, man, what you're saying is, first of all, it's not funny at all, but secondly, it's like wildly retarded, and everyone can see it's retarded.
Yeah, and I asked him, I'm like, please show me where I said that. I did not. Show me where, and shockingly, it has not been found. Despite all of the best efforts of the world's top men.
Yeah, it's right under the pedophile conviction of that guy you've been harboring on Kiwi Farms for 5 years. Go ahead and lift up Jason Close's pedophile conviction, and Nick's statement is right under there, buddy. Go ahead and lift up the pedo. You know how Null's been trying to convince everybody that Vito is a legit pedophile? So they'll attack me for 3 years? I think the call was actually coming from inside the house. The ice cream truck was inside the house. No,
dude. So when this discovery document dump happened, and it showed all the people who did the Freedom of Information Act requests.
Yeah,
buddy of mine just immediately sends me a thing. It's like, guess what? Ran someone through a database. The database is Google, and it comes up with the registered offender thing, and the addresses match. The literal first person is a pedophile. And I laugh. I'm like, of course it's a registered pedophile. And so I'm chuckling. Yeah. And then I look at the request as a volunteer reporter for Kiwi Farms. And I'm like, it could not have happened funnier than that. But it gets funnier. Because I didn't say anything, obviously. My lawyer filed an opposition to having the pretrial hearings recorded.
Okay.
Because there's a rule that says that they shouldn't be. But that being said, one of the things is to protect to protect minor children who may be involved. And well, sorry, we've got alleged victims who would be minor children, right? That are involved in this case. That could be witnesses. And so my lawyer files the thing and points out, the first person to look into this is a pedophile. And there are children that are presumably protected by the law. Like, that's the whole point.
And Null is lying about them being a pedophile and associated with Kiwi Farms.
Oh, that's the funny part. So I don't say, I find this out a couple days ago. I don't say anything publicly because it's like, well, this is going to get filed. And so it gets filed. What is Null's immediate defense? First, he goes on to Kiwi Farms and he changes the guy's screen name to his real name. So he confirms right there that the guy is actually a Kiwi Farms user.
Yeah. And he's been on there bragging that he's a pedophile the whole time.
Since 2019, yeah. So for 5 years now, the guy's been an open pedophile on Kiwi Farms. Not only that, Null then goes to my locals and he searches for this guy and he sees that he's a quote unquote member for 2 years. And he's like, no,
Yeah.
he's actually a member of Nick's private locals community. And it's like, well, first of all, 2 years ago, that's weird. That's when a bunch of Kiwi Farms people started having masturbatory fits about my locals page. Okay,
Yeah.
that's funny. And then I check, and of course, he's an unpaid member. He never paid a penny. He wasn't. So on locals, you can
Blew
go
all
and
that
like,
money on child porn, I guess, or maybe he gave it to Null
well,
for his weird lawsuit that's not
he's
happening.
homeless and on disability. A Kiwi story.
Oh,
But no, so the funny fucking thing is he was not actually a member of my locals. He was just you sign up with your email so you can get like updates.
yeah,
But
I'm
you
on that.
can't, yeah, you can't chat, you can't
Can't see it.
comment, you can't do anything members only. But he has over 900 posts on Kiwi Farms and he's won 25 trophies. He's won trophies for having such a strong like to post ratio.
And he's a known convicted pedophile with 135 counts of pedophiliness.
And so Null's like, look, he's a member of your community. He's like, nope, not at all,
Oh,
actually.
no, he is a full-fledged member of your community, one of many.
A celebrated one. But here's what's even better. Here's what's even better. It's almost like Kiwi Farms has this way to see stuff about a person. Like here's his trophies where he's thought-provoking because he has 500 or more posts with at least a 1-to-1 ratio of likes, well-spoken, over 100 posts with 1-to-1 ratio of likes, received 250 likes, received 100 likes on your post, received 50 likes. His reaction score is positive. 860.
He's a beloved member of the community, man.
Here's what's really good.
He's their Dennis Hastert.
You can see his postings because Null has this great website where you can see the postings and you can go and read about him and read what he wrote about me. And it's all negative. It's all negative going as far back as you want to go. You could just find he first started
Null
commenting
knew all
in
this, by the way. Null knew all of this because this is the same guy that was stalking Tim Pool and all this other shit. This is all wildly out in the open and known.
So if you go back to here's the beginning of his chat history. Come on. We'll get there. It's a little Kiwi Farms around a little slow right now. It's like the special kid in line for mac and cheese.
Because Hurricane Electric was worried about child pornography.
So he's talking about Alejandra Carabello. That's a tranny lawyer who hates me, by the way. That's funny.
This is back in trans people is because they think it's competition for getting at the kids.
So we can go straight to the first post about me, and it's May 24th. So it's the day after my arrest is when he starts posting about me, and then he goes on and makes a couple posts. Here we go. Don't mistake me looking at this from a legal perspective as some kind of misplaced sympathy for Nick or Kayla. They absolutely should not have jeopardized the stability of their children's lives by being druggies. They felt this is fully on them. Over and over and over. It's all negative. So Null's super cope here because Null, I mean, at the end of the day, Null loves
he's a fan of yours. Is that what Null's saying? He's actually a Nick fan.
Did you not see when Null did that?
No.
Oh God, this is great. because it's all just right out.
Whenever it comes to us, he's like he turns into a retard. No.
Yep. Do you know that Null unironically said to me the other day, without a shred of jokery in it, he said, "It is distasteful to call everybody you dislike a pedophile." Null said that.
No, you should start calling some of the people you like a pedophile.
So here we go. This is Nick Rekieta fights a petition. So this is kiwifarms.net. Update. The pedophile that allegedly requested the body cam footage is actually a member of Rekieta Law's private community on locals and has been for almost 2 years. He's not. Actually, he's a member of the public version of locals. He was a non-paying person.
What's the matter? That's so stupid.
Oh, no, I know. But hold on. Here's the best part. I go check. Here's his community member. Look up. Not a single penny ever paid. $0.
Would you have donated it to Rain if he had given you any money? The child
no, I would have just kept it. Wait,
Null talks like that guy Oswald, that black on In Living Color, the black guy that's in prison and uses all the big words, the big lawyer words, like he allegedly. Man,
but he
the words
mispronounces
what
so
you're
many of
alleging
them.
isn't a crime, so you don't need to use it there. You fat retard.
But yeah, so this is the guy. This is the Kiwi Farms map. And again, I want to. It's funny because they act like, I mean, this you mentioned it's in the open in 2019. He had an
Yeah, he's
Ask Me
bragging about
Anything
it.
thread. He's got a verified tag.
Yeah.
They verified that this was the guy saying he was a pedophile. Presumably Null did the verification or one of the mods, because it's not something that anybody can just normally do.
It's unreal the amount of crying about pedophile shit that guy does when he's openly harboring a really egregious pedophile.
His reaction score is positive.
Yeah.
Positive. He's embraced by the community. So, it's fine. It's fine. It's funny though, because the main reason for bringing all this up is because this is what Null does. He tries to guilt by association people. He tries to ham fist other people's perspectives onto someone else. It's like, oh, you talked to this person who's this. Well, they're a pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, Josh.